Hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Wednesday in the Riv, and it is 9/11. I think we have to begin the show by
Yes, we do.
remembering that day 23 years ago. Nearly 3,000 Americans died, 2,997, I think. 343 firefighters died trying to rescue those people. Police officers died. Many people have died since due to cancer and things like that they got from working on site after that catastrophic event. And remember, Kamala says do not use the word radical Islamic terrorists. So I guess the people who drove those planes into the buildings were not radical Islamic terrorists.
They were tourists.
Yeah, they were tourists, exactly. So
they just played in the wrong direction.
We have to begin on that note because
Right.
we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. And but again, that day is a day that they're all there today, I guess, and the same people who won't acknowledge that 13 people died on their watch are there today. We've forgotten. And one of the biggest things we've forgotten about that day is how America came together after that attack. There were people driving down the streets waving American flags. People ran down to the recruiters to enlist in the military. And there were no conservatives or liberals or radicals. Everybody was an American after 9/11 for a while. It was a time when America truly came together like they do in times of catastrophic events like when World War II, when Pearl Harbor was bombed. America came together for a world war. It's a sad commentary to see how this country has disintegrated and devolved into what it is now, which is a bunch of politicians trying to grab power. And in this election cycle, after that debate last night, which wasn't even a debate, it was an ambush. Which proved nothing. It's just a sad commentary on what's happened to our government. We no longer have a government. And I don't know what you want to hit first, but then we can start about our government because in the short interval between Monday's show and today, we have had a school committee meeting, which was extremely telling, and a council meeting, which both showed how dysfunctional this city is under Paul Coogan.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. The teachers stood there and said, when Bruce Assad lies, you lie. When your administration lies, you lie. When your negotiators lie, you lie. They made it clear. They kept saying, Paul, you lie. You're a liar. And we know he's a liar. We've been there. We've seen it.
Remember, I gave him the name, the pathological, prevaricator, Paul.
I hear you. And the thing is that last night at the city council meeting, Al Oliveira, the director of community operations, which I don't know why we need that position, and Seth Akins, city administrator, sat there, and I'm not going to say outright lied because that would be a little bit of misinformation. It was a lie, but it was a little bit of misinformation. They went around the truth. He was asked specifically by Andrew Raposo, what efficiencies did you do? How much did those efficiencies save us? I don't have those numbers. You ever notice when you ask them a direct question about money, they don't have the numbers?
Yeah, and therein lies the rub, CJ. They're supposed to have the answers.
That's right.
When I went in front of that council and I talked about when he said ignore us and that he's not there to convince people, they are there to give. What did I say? They are he is there, and our CFO are there to give them information and accurate numbers to make their fiduciary responsibility, execute their fiduciary responsibility, and they don't. Seth Akins is full of shit all the time. He never gives a straight answer. You know, he talks about when I was in a courtroom, I had to convince people. Well, you've convinced everybody that you're full of shit. Because you never give a straight answer. Everything's yes and no. There's no truth there, CJ, because everything you ask them is, I don't have the numbers. Well, why don't you have the numbers? Because you don't want to have the numbers. You're supposed to have the numbers. I can tell you one thing. Every single reorganization that Paul Coogan was part of resulted in more jobs and higher pays.
Exactly.
For people that are his friends. That's why they don't have the numbers, because they don't want to give you the numbers, because they haven't saved anything. And then they try to spin everything. This is infuriating. Infuriating. Where are the voters? You got to throw all these bums out of here. You got to get rid of this guy. This guy is insane. I mean, you can't get a straight number. We always got a straight number from our previous city administrators. Our first city administrator, don't ever ask Alan Sylvia about a number. Remember Alan?
I remember
He'd sit
Alan.
there for 17 hours and give you numbers. Your head would explode. And they were all accurate. Right on the money. Don't ever ask Jim Smith. All our previous, even Kathy Ann Viveris had some numbers. They weren't quite as accurate. Once Coogan started coming in and these newer mayors came in, like Flanagan and Coogan, who couldn't balance a budget. That's why Flanagan got recalled. We were $8 million in the hole. And we're a hell of a lot more now. But nobody seems to care. Oh, Andrew Raposa, kudos to Andrew Raposa. He grilled them. But I didn't hear the council say, listen, get out of the council, go back to your office. Do not come back in front of this city council unless you've got numbers. Do not come down to the well and say, I'm the city administrator. Well, what's the answer? Well, we don't have the numbers. Well, what is this? Well, yes and no. Well, yes and no is nothing. It's either yes or it's a no. You're a freaking administrator. The city administrator. That's not a damn answer. You should be fired. The city council should demand to wipe out that financial team. We haven't had a number 3 terms Coogan's been in. We haven't gotten a freaking number that was accurate since the day he walked onto the 6th floor. You think I'm pissed? After what happened Monday, the school teachers were right. All they do is lie and spin, kind of like Kamala and Biden. Lie and spin. Nobody died on my watch. No soldiers died on my watch. Oh, I forgot about the 13 soldiers who just received medals from Congress, not from Joe Biden. They still haven't admitted anything. He still hasn't even apologized for that statement and said, okay, I got dementia. I forgot that I killed 13 American soldiers with they're still trying to blame it on Trump. Oh, it was Trump's plan. No, it wasn't. It was Milley's plan and Austin's plan. And you, Kamala and Joe, are the people who made Millie and Austin, the people in charge. Don't give me that. I'm tired of this spin. I'm tired of it. I mean, it's getting so bad in this city. I cannot believe what goes on in front of that council. I cannot believe that that council tolerates that shit. I can't believe it. You're paying this guy $100,000 a year, and he hasn't given you a number. It's always, well, I don't have those. Why not? Before you even started that reorganization, you should have had a ballpark figure on how much that reorganization was going to cost the taxpayers of the city or save the taxpayers of the city. That's the way you do business. Not, hey, let me reorganize. Let me get all my friends' jobs. Let me get all my friends' pay raises. And then when they ask me questions, I'll go, oh, I don't have those numbers. Well, why not? Nobody's got a number. And our council is, except for Michelle Dion and a few people, and Andrew Raposo started grilling them yesterday, but it's not enough just to ask them. You cannot take that non-answer as an answer. In the old days, when we had real councilors, do you think John Medeiros would have taken that shit? Do you think some of the councilors we had, Steve Walsh was one of the best councilors I ever saw. He had every number, and he would grill people. They would have told them, get out of the council, get out of the well, go back to your office. You're being paid to give us numbers. You're being paid to answer our questions. Not say, I don't have those numbers. Oh, I might get those numbers. Oh, they're only for discussion. We've lost control of this city, and we're never going to get it back as long as we got these people sitting in the chairs and Paul Coogan on the 6th floor. And with that, CJ, back to you.
Interesting. I got to say, Jeffrey brought up a couple of things. David Mead brought up a couple of things. Something we will speak about in a few minutes about the cell phone issue, because you and I agree on no cell phones in the schools. And we have, even with Mary Sahadi, okay, we couldn't believe her numbers, but she had numbers. You couldn't believe it. She acknowledged after being exposed that yes, that she inflated the numbers. But she at least gave us a number of some type. But you're right. I mean, Steve Walsh, he would never exist in today's city council. Never. He wouldn't. He would tear his hair out and he'd walk out of the room, because the 9 that we have now don't care. I should say 9. 8 don't care. 8 don't care. You're muted, Chip. Can't hear you. You're muted, Chip.
Yeah, we've got a councilor that asked them if they wanted more money. They can't account for the money they're spending now. We got Kadeem saying, you want more? You think we should ask for more money from the taxpayers? We can't account for the money we're spending now. And you want to give them more? And when he said that, when he was talking about that, because one woman was complaining about her water bill, which, as we spoke about on a previous show, people have been posting their water bills on social media. He said, I like the fact that I can take a shower in clean water. And if I can't buy bottled water, I've got a tap that I can get clean water out of. Well, if that clean water is so good, get rid of your water dispenser in the back hall. Linda always says, let's sell the water. Fill up the 5-gallon containers with city water. Listen, that water's no cleaner. That water's no cleaner with this money. They're not doing anything different at the plant that they did before this thing went. This is a money grab. Okay? So let's not get the bullshit now. I'm willing to pay. Yeah, Linda, you're willing to pay. You got plenty of money, Linda. I know what that you drive. I know you got a Lexus in the family. You got a few nice cars. You're making plenty of money. You got income property. You don't care. Don't give me that crap. I'm willing to pay. So is every other rich person in the city. Just like the discussion about the homeless, when Michelle finally nailed them to the cross, and then the veterans agent nailed them to the cross about nobody cares about affordable housing here. Linda will say, hey, well, you can't have it both ways. Don't give me that crap. Don't give me that crap. They said at the council, Linda, and you were sitting in a chair, just so I can maybe give you a little bit of relieve some of the political amnesia that you seem to be suffering from. Let me remind you, this was all about money. When those consultants came down, they didn't talk about clean water. They didn't talk about anything. They talked about money. We're going to raise the rates. We're going to rate whether you use water or not. We're raising the rates, whether it's clean, whether it's dirty, whether somebody had a dump in it. We don't care. You're going to pay 23% more, and then have a 5% increase every year thereafter. Well, I don't know who paid. Hey, listen, anybody that's watching the show, if you paid 23% or less, let me know. Let us know, please. Contact us, on Spindle City Straight Talk. Let us know. I looked at my bill. My bill went up 28%. So I guess I got the 23 plus the 5% increase early. They put another 5 on top of that.
That's just they love you.
That's because they love us. Yeah. If they had their way, we'd be paying 1,000% more. It is about a revenue stream. Now, listen, stop insulting the intelligence of the people, Linda. Maybe this is why when you ran head to head against anybody, you couldn't beat the dog catcher. Maybe that's why. People know that you're like a weather vane. You just go which way the political wind is blowing and what's good for you. I'm frankly sick of it. This election we're looking at now in November could change the fate of this country. And the next election in November with Coogan running again could put the last nail in the coffin of the city.
That's right. Could kill us. Definitely could kill us. And there's no question about it. There's no question about it. Okay, the amount of money that's been spent by this administration, and we have nothing to show for it. The director of community operations turned around and said, look at what we did for the trolley. Look at what we did for the trolley. Number one, there's no ordinance which governs how much is charged. Yet, Viva Fall River is using the trolley regularly. The trolley was recently used with school children. Again, no ordinance in place. Who's paying for it? The taxpayer. Who's making money off of it? Viva Fall River.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And they don't care. Paul doesn't care. He thinks, well, this is going to draw tourists. It doesn't draw tourists. They're all locals. They're all locals.
Look, that was another sweetheart deal. And look at, is the salary for the mayor still $120,000?
I believe so.
All right, so that means after 3 terms, Paul will have made $720,000 in salary, and he's got a nice big fat pension he can live off.
Right.
So he's got virtually $750,000. If he gets another term, he will be a millionaire thanks to your tax dollars. And what has he done for you? Are you better off now than you were 3 terms ago with Paul Coogan? The answer is actually an emphatic no. We've got higher now. Our water bills are through the ceiling. Our tax bills are through the ceiling. He promised transparency. We have none of it. He has done absolutely nothing. And you know something? I think everybody in this city is just so fed up. Most of them are moving out. As a matter of fact, you and I know two very, very uh, engaged people in this city who are now moving out of the city of Fall River.
Yes.
They're
Yes.
leaving after years.
They're leaving the state.
Huh?
They're leaving the state.
They're leaving the state. They're going to join the other 1,100 a month that are leaving the state. Why? Because this place has become a mini Washington, D.C. We got mini Joe Biden up there. Paulie Pockets is up there just saying how great everything is. And I'm glad Michelle took him to task. He will be a millionaire. A few 100,000, a little bit short of a million, but you know, we can round it off a little bit. It'll be close enough to 1 million, and I'm sure his rich banker friends and have gotten some investments for him and things like that. I'm sure Paul will be a very, very wealthy man. He is a very wealthy man now, and those are the kind of people that don't care. And you know, this is what's happened, and we have people, and the people who are leaving here really put a lot of time and effort into this city. They volunteered a lot of things. They were very involved in politics. They tried their best. They tried their best to affect change in this city. And now they're just fed up to their ears. And kudos to them. You know, they're fortunate. They have the resources to be able to get the hell out of Dodge. But a lot of people don't. As Michelle said at that meeting, it was said at that meeting by, I don't know, the veterans. Where do you expect these people to go? They can't afford the rent in Fall River. Every place else is charging even more. And
well, that's exactly what one of the homeless people said. They said, if Fall River is the least expensive city to live in the Commonwealth, he said in the state, then where are these people supposed to go? If they can't make it in Fall River, they can't make it anywhere.
Yeah. And it's no longer the least expensive.
That's right. It's not.
We're pretty competitive. What they did was they brought us up to the standard without giving us the money. It's kind of like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They've dumped inflation on our backs and said, well, that's the way it is. You got to pay for this stuff now. And then they blamed the company. Price gauging, gauging.
Yeah.
She doesn't know the difference. They're blaming the supermarkets and stores, businesses that are operating on less than 2% profit margin of price gouging. You don't think they pay more when they have to get their stuff trucked in? Gas is more expensive. Everything's more. I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous. I mean, they're selling you a bill of goods. You do not have to pay attention to national politics. Look at a council. Look at CJ. I'm surprised CJ's got eyeballs left after all the council meetings he has to watch.
They're still there. They're still there.
I mean, listen.
All
you got to do is watch that meeting.
My ears have a problem.
I know. In 5.5 years, we haven't gotten a straight number. Never. Now that we get, as you said, when we had Mary Sahadi, we got numbers. They were kind of bogus numbers, but then somebody called her on it. But she had the real number. She knew it. She inflated it. Exactly. She admitted it. She cushioned it. But she actually had the numbers. But these people, they don't even bother doing the numbers because they can go down to the council and just tell them, well, we don't have the numbers. We'll get them for you. Next time you ask them, well, we don't have them yet. We're working on it. Well, we don't even know. Or what's the answer, Seth? Well, yes or no? Well, yes and no. What do you mean yes and no? That's not an answer. That's a non-answer. Do you think when I negotiated?
I loved his excuse when they said, how has the reorganization gone? Well, we haven't done anything yet because it was the summer months and we didn't want to move people around. But now they're going into the end of the year. Now we're going to start making the changes. Because, we had to make sure we got all those final grass cuts in for the end of the year. And we didn't want to move people. And now we want to take it so that we can utilize people's skills.
Yeah, what a crock of shit. I mean, listen, reorganizations are supposed to be to make a thing run efficiently and effectively and cheaper. But their reorganizations to give their friends jobs. And so they have to determine where they're going to move everybody so they can make everybody say, what was that last one, CJ, on a repost I was trying to read? Yeah. Give it, yeah. No, you're right. I mean, listen, but they insult everybody's intelligence. It's like, we know what Paul in the school department reorganized, and he put 4 supervisors where there used to be 1.
Right.
And then he gave them pay raises. So don't tell me it's more efficient, more effective. They've never had a reorganization in the city. That in private industry, when they reorganize, that reorganization goes into effect immediately because they're reorganizing to make that business more effective, more efficient, and run more effectively. But in government, when they do a reorganization, that's a code word for giving all my friends jobs and pay raises.
Exactly. Well, and the thing is that the teachers were right. The teachers were right. Okay? I'm not going to justify or call out Ken Pacheco's pay raise. I'm not going to call out this promotion. I'm not going to call out this pay raise. But you can't give us one. And then Bruce Assad lied. He lied again. Lied again right there. Saying that this contract is the best contract in the state. The pay raises are the highest in the state. No, they're not. Salem is. Salem's taking that credit. I believe Salem has like an 18% pay raise.
No, you're right, David. But listen, number one, again, it doesn't matter what Salem got. What matters is what they're negotiating, and they're not supposed to be negotiating at a school committee meeting. Where the hell is this union? Why the hell haven't they filed all kinds of unfair labor practices about what's going on here? And I think that my favorite one was, didn't somebody say, I'm not going to question calling someone an ass?
Yes.
That was my favorite. So it was nice when they put it in that context. He must have been an English teacher, because he put it in a way where you have to draw the conclusion on what he was inferring. But the fact is that, listen, this city's out of control. We have absolutely no idea nobody knows what's going on. The people are getting paid go down there and tell you, oh, I don't know how it's going. Oh, I got an excuse. We don't do it during the summer. What do you mean you don't do it in the summer? What are you saying to me? You're going to tell me that this is going to save me money, but you're not going to do it right now. You're going to keep blowing money for the whole summer. Does that make any sense? In a business sense? In a taxpayer sense? No. These people don't even know how ridiculous they sound to anybody that has the ability to actually think critically. Everything they say is contrary to normalcy. Oh, we're going to have a reorganization. Why do you have a reorganization? To make things better. But we're not going to do it. We're going to give everybody the summer off. We're not going to do it. Well, private industry doesn't do that. You have a reorganization on Monday. Everybody's where they're going to be. Next Monday, this is where you're going to be. By Tuesday, you might be there. Because it's about saving money. But it's not about saving money in this city. These people get up there and they blatantly lie, misrepresent, and a city council may ask questions, but they are never held accountable. They should not be allowed to walk into that well at the council chamber unless they got hard numbers. They know how to say it's too hard to tell us how much we pay for Durfee. It's too hard. It's also too hard to know how much we're going to save. But it's not too hard to pay all these people. Well, if it's too hard for them, they should not be employed. And the council should demand numbers. You see, you write letters, I write letters, you go down there, you talk, I talk, and they just blow. It's like, it's like urinating in the wind. All you do is get the urine back in your face. Because when I told them that they were there to give them accurate numbers and information, that was a truth. That's a fact. That's what our Constitution says, that they're supposed to be answerable to us, and they have a fiduciary. And I told them I got case law up the wazoo. I'm looking at a file cabinet full of case law that says they have to make decisions on real numbers, that they have an obligation, a legal obligation, to look with a critical eye, to go deeper than the surface numbers. I can prove that in court, but I don't have the money. And believe me, if I ever hit the mega bucks, these guys are toast. They're all toast. I am going to hire a battery of lawyers, and I'm going to run. They will be crapping in a bathtub for the rest of their life after the colonoscopy I give them, if I ever hit that.
Give them the 2-day prep. Well, it's interesting because yesterday, before the city council meeting, I had a conversation with Councilor Raposo. And I said very clearly, I said, you do know that this city hasn't written a new contract for any union, probably in about 15 years. They're all memorandums of understanding, which is not a contract.
Which is a violation of 150E, by the way. Too.
Exactly.
Just in case anybody would like to know it, because the statute clearly states that it has to be a contract. There's even a time limit in 150E. It has to be for 3 years in length. Memorandums of understanding. Let me just explain this to the city lawyers and to these unions that are supposed to be unions that just let this stuff happen. Memorandums of understanding and side letters are used when you negotiate something outside the current collective bargaining agreement, something that came up and you don't want to reopen total negotiations. Something comes up like they were going to transfer the dispatchers over to the police department and make them civilians, and they were not going to open a whole contract up. Then you negotiate that particular aspect, and because it's going to go into effect before the end of the contract that's in effect, you attach a memorandum of understanding or a side letter of agreement. That has a sunset, should have a sunset on it. That language should be placed in the next subsequent contract. That's the way it's supposed to work. That's the law. And I know the law about negotiations. What they do in this city, and they ignore it even if it isn't a contract. I remember one time telling Kathy Ann Viveris, why are you paying people twice? Well, what do you mean? I said, when the short time they had a contract chief, the guy went from deputy chief, a district chief to chief, and so they paid him out like he was retiring, and they gave him all his benefit package, and then he became a chief. And then when he retired as the chief, they gave him another payout. I said, that's not what the contract says, Kathy. No, what do you mean? I said, read the contract. I said, you got the I was in the office actually with her. And I said, you got the contract here? Yeah. I said, go get it. So she got it. I said, and I gave it a section to look up. I said, and I know what it says. I don't need it because I wrote it. It says, upon the retirement or death, this is the benefit package. You pay them for all their unused, the personal days, etc., vacation, all that. It's all stipulated in the language. I said, did he retire? Well, no. He's no longer in a bargaining. That doesn't make any difference. You can only buy them out once. You put the same language in the contract chief's language that's in here that you buy him out when he's gone, and he carries those benefits. Oh, that's not the way. But they didn't care. If they were making their friends the chief and paying them twice. This is the way this city is run. And I can show you the damn thing in a contract. But then you wonder why we got to get rid of these people? I mean, they're beyond belief. They not only just ignore the law, they just don't even pay attention to it. It never affects any decision they ever make. It's like, what can we do to take care of our people and screw the taxpayer? With that, CJ, back to you.
Yeah, well, we've seen this before, and we'll see it again, I'm sure. A couple of things I wanted to bring up. I received information from a parent with their child in a local school, one of the Florida public schools, in the 5th grade, who has an IEP, an individual education plan. The child is sitting in a classroom with no teacher since school opened. The IEP is not being followed, which is notorious for the Florida public schools. They notoriously don't follow the IEPs. They don't. They pocket the money and they don't follow them. I remember when Aaron was in the Florida public schools, I used to have to fight every single day, for his IEP, to have them follow it. It was impossible. So parents, if your child is sitting in a classroom with no teacher, and don't accept the excuse from the school department, well, we don't have any teachers, we don't have anyone to fill the position. We have 80 vacancies. Then I heard it was 100 some odd vacancies. I don't know how many it is, because the numbers are never the same. But your child deserves an education. Your child is entitled to an education. Your child should be getting an education. And if your child isn't getting an education and you're not making a stake, you are to blame.
Call me crazy. Isn't that what the school department's supposed to be for? To educate the children?
That's right.
I don't know. Just call me nutty, but I thought that was the job. And what did they say? What do they have? 155 vacancies? Did I hear that number banted around?
I've heard 80. I've heard 131. I've heard 135. I don't know anymore how many vacancies they have.
Yeah, well, I know they got a lot, and that's the problem. The problem is that, but the problem is there's no focus on, you, as you said, on the education of our children.
That's right.
We got a hell of a lot of new supervisors. We got a hell of a lot of assistant superintendents of schools. We have a hell of a lot of assistants to the assistants everywhere. But our school teachers can't get a contract, and they're negotiating it. And like I said, next week I have a meeting, and I'm going to ask the president of that. I don't know if it's still the same guy. I'm going to ask the teachers union guy why the hell they haven't filed an unfair labor practice about the way this entire bargaining situation is going, because it's unfathomable to me that you could allow this to happen. You can't be talking about things and arguing. And I know in a way it's good, because then we got to see that the teachers are infuriated, and we got to see we got to see Coogan be called out, and these people being called out for being absolute liars. But the thing is, you shouldn't put any negotiations in that kind of box. It actually inhibits the process, because when you start saying we gave them the best contract in the state, then people start saying, well, let's see if I can find a better contract than that so we can use that, and not focus on what you've got to do. And the bargaining does not happen in a vacuum. Bargaining has to be looked upon as, with number one, the first thing is ability to pay. Secondly, it is what they get in like areas, like, and with all due respect to them, you can't compare Salem to Fall River. It's too small. If you went to the JLMC, which they can't go, only fire and police can go there. In the case of a thing, if you go to the JLMC, I could not use the Salem Fire Department or the New. I could use Newton because Newton's the same size, but you have to use approximately, normally in our universes with the JLMC, it's 10, including yourself. So you and 9 other communities of like communities. They don't have to be economically like. They are prioritized. Like Newton was at the top, Lowell, Lawrence, Fall River at the bottom. But you couldn't expect a jump from Fall River, Lowell, and Lawrence up to Newton. When you had to go up, you had to climb the ladder. You had to negotiate with about what the benefit packages are in cities of your approximate size. And the example I always use is like people used to complain to me that, the Somerset firefighters are making more than we are. We go to a hell of a lot more fires. We do this, we do that. They're making more. Why are they making more? Well, real simple. So we can't use Somerset. I said, the fire department budget is larger than the entire town budget of Somerset. And 90% of Somerset is taxable. People don't realize that only about 50% of Fall River you can tax between the nonprofits, the church properties, and public properties. I said Somerset, at the time when I had Brayton Point, was raising almost as much in tax revenue as Fall River was. I said, so we had, at the time, 255 firefighters. Do the math. They give you a $10 raise. What do they have in Somerset? 25, 30 firefighters. I said, the contract is insignificant. I said, their ability to pay is different. People don't understand the complexity of bargaining. You just can't go in here and say, I want it because I deserve it. And you very well do deserve it. We should have got we should have been some of the highest paid firefighters in the state of Massachusetts. When we were there, that was when they were burning the city down. We were the second or third, at minimum, third busiest city in the Commonwealth. The only city that ever beat us was Boston, which of course is gigantic. It's the capital city. Worcester once in a while, but we used to beat Springfield every year for fires. One year, New Bedford had 28 arson fires. In that quarter, we had 521. I still remember the number because I told it to the city council. 521 arson fires versus 28 in New Bedford. So if we got paid by the fire, we should get paid. We should have been the highest paid, but that's not the way you have to bargain. You have to look at the city's ability. There's a whole bunch of things. It's not an easy thing to do when you're doing it the right way behind closed doors. But when you're doing it the way the school department is, it's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace what they're doing over there. And, but since they want to do it in public, teachers just keep going there and giving them hell. With that, CJ, I'll close.
That's true. Hey, Jeff asked us a question here about Ryan Lyons and the contract issue. That wasn't to be decided yesterday. That has been referred over to the Committee on Ordinance and Legislation. And from what I understand, Michelle Dion made a motion, or may have made a motion, to separate the contract from the Veterans Agent contract and Ryan's in the ordinance. I don't, and under, hold on a second, I have it right here. I want to be sure I have this correct. Under Massachusetts General Law, Part 1, Title 8, Chapter 51, Section 16A, says that elections commissioners are appointed for their term until replaced, and that's the way it works. Now, I got into a pissing match almost with Andrew Raposo saying, well, he's the director. I said, until Ryan came along, there was no such name as director. He created the titles. Look back at the budget. Go back to Liz's budget. Go back to Kelly's budget. And now look at Ryan's budget. Look at the titles they had back then. It was elections commissioner. It wasn't director. He's one of four. One of four. 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans. Now, Ryan acts primarily as a Democrat in all his handling of the election system. And he's not supposed to. He's supposed to be neutral. It's kind of hard for him because he's always been a Democratic operative. He went and spoke about the elections process to the Democratic City Committee. He never offered it to the Republican City Committee. Didn't contact them as far as I know. Why is he doing that? Why wasn't it held publicly? Instead of being done at the Democratic City Committee's private meeting, why wasn't it done in a public forum? Why? Because he's a Democratic operative. This is why people will not be able to trust the elections this November. We've already got people getting tickets for voting at BCC. We got people who can't find their voting place at St. Anthony of the Desert Church. We have seniors and disabled complaining that they can't get to the polls when they were promised a van. But this is what he does.
Use the trolley.
Yeah, use the trolley. There you go. Finally get a use for it. So that makes for an interesting time. Now we got to go back to a comment made by David Mead about the schools and cell phones. They delayed the implementation of the plan to restrict cell phone usage in the schools now from September 23rd to October 8th, about 2 weeks. Okay? I have always been a supporter of no cell phones in the schools. I have always said that they're a distraction. And when a teacher had the kids go up and mark on the board the number of times their phone chimed, beeped, or got a notification in a class, a 45, 50-minute class, it was like over 1,000. That's distraction. When kids are looking at YouTube videos, that's a distraction. Now, granted, one of the girls yesterday at the city council meeting, which, by the way, I must give Joe Camara a little bit of credit for his patience, because he let citizens input go for an hour and 20 minutes. So that was a lot of time there for citizens input. But they turned around and said, my teacher does what's right. They create a phone locker. So we still have it in an emergency. In an emergency, your child doesn't need to be calling home to say, Mom, it's an emergency. Mom, there's a school shooting. Mom, the school's on fire. They need to follow the directions of their teachers and of the authorities, not try to make a phone call home. And I got to give credit to that student who turned around and said, by denying access to these phones, these children are going to be denied the right to say their final messages to their parents and their loved ones. I mean, that was good. That was good. She should go into marketing. She really should, because that was a good.
Yeah. Well, let's look at. that there were a lot of people on D-Day that got killed without being able to say their final goodbyes. The thing is that
Exactly.
we should be concentrating on having the fewest people having to say their final goodbyes by doing things in an orderly manner. And you don't get orderly with that crap. And locking up the phones don't do any good, because once there is a problem, everybody's going to be more worried about getting their cell phone than getting the hell out of Dodge, than
I
going
know.
the way they're supposed to do to save their own asses. These people have no ability to operate under stress. They're not used to hostile environments. They want to call. It is a necessary fact. Just like there are collateral casualties in war, you have to realize that the primary object, well, then again, saying plan, that's like, that's in direct conflict with anything Paul Coogan ever did. He's never had a plan for anything except getting himself rich and his friends rich. But they haven't had a plan, still don't have a plan how to discipline people. They still haven't had a plan after Malone. The plan is it's like an expletive to them. They can't say it. But I want to see a definitive plan. Why don't they have definitive plans? And if they do, what are they drilling on them? How often do they drill them? These kids should not be worried about where their cell phone is. They should be worried about what designated area they're going to go to in the event that whatever they use to identify that situation, they should have what they call in the military situational awareness. The only thing that should be the focus of this, rather than deflect it with, I want to talk to my mommy, everybody does. I know a lot of people that were thinking about their mommy and daddy when bullets were flying over their head in wars. But that's the way it is. You got to try to save your ass. And the best way to save your ass is have a plan. And the plan should be to get these people to be operating quickly and effectively to get to designated areas. And I don't see that at all. I don't see that. We have Chaos Coogan and the rest of these idiots that don't know how to plan anything. It's the old saying, there's two ways to run a fire. You learn your tactics and strategy and execute them and everybody follows orders, or you can do it the way that Coogan would do it, because they had an old saying in the fire service: when in danger, when in doubt, run in circles, scream and shout. That's not the way to do it.
I've heard that before.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. You can't be, and Jeff's comment here about it's a problem these days. Everybody's on their cell phones, TikTok, YouTube. You don't see the real world like 20 years ago. He's right. I was walking in Market Basket, and some woman walked right into me because she was playing on her cell phone. Some kid was running around with his cell phone in his hand, and he was pushing the buttons. He wrapped right into the shelves. People don't pay attention. They're in their cars. They're sitting at a green light. You got to blow the horn at them because they're on their cell phone. And the Florida police aren't enforcing that. They're not pulling them over saying, look, you're not supposed to be on your cell phone. You got to stop this. Even if they just gave them a warning. Nobody says give them a ticket. Give them a warning.
Yeah, but we did buy an electronic sign that they had on Northeastern Avenue that said cell phones hands-free. Massachusetts is hands-free, but
I know
they don't enforce it. And as I was driving by that sign, there was a guy in front of me driving like this. The cell phone in front of his face. And he's talking.
Yeah.
It's like, talk about they can't even drive, like you just said, they can't even drive a shopping cart.
Exactly.
And they're going to put them behind a motor vehicle. So the cell phones are the bane of existence.
Yes, they are. And you know what? A lot of times I keep it in my back pocket. I don't even answer it. It's sitting. I leave the house. I forget it at home. I'm not worried about it because guess what? For 30, 40 years, I lived without a cell phone. It wasn't a big deal. It still isn't a big deal. When I got one when I was in my, late 20s, early 30s, I got one for a status symbol. I had one of those big ones. Remember the big ones with the antenna off the top?
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Those big. I had one of the first cell phones. I had one in my truck. That was the bane of my existence because back then, every phone call you made cost you money. 15 cents a minute, 55 cents a minute. I remember. And believe me, when they turned around and made it one fee for cell phone calls, I was very happy. Well, I want to thank you all for watching. It's been an interesting show. Remember, share our show with your friends. Share it on Facebook. Share it on YouTube. Make sure your friends can watch us because if they watch us, we'll get more information to bring to you. Once again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on Friday.
And
Stay
remember
safe,
9/11.
stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. And don't forget 9/11.